He said it was just a flirt until I found the love letters. The morning light filtered through our bedroom curtains, casting gentle shadows across the hardwood floor. I stretched lazily, reaching for Marcus's side of the bed, only to find it empty and cold. He must have left early for his conference in Boston, the third one this month. As a marketing director for a tech startup, he traveled frequently, but lately it seemed like he was gone more than he was home. I padded to the kitchen, brewing my usual dark roast, while scrolling through my phone. A text from Marcus popped up. Made it to the hotel. Busy day ahead. Love you. I smiled, typing back a quick response before getting ready for my own workday at the elementary school, where I taught third grade. It was a Tuesday in October when everything changed. The autumn leaves were at their peak, painting our Connecticut neighborhood in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. I'd come home early with a migraine, hoping to rest, before Marcus returned from his latest trip. As I entered our bedroom, I noticed his laptop bag tucked behind the dresser, odd since he always took it on business trips. Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled out the bag intending to move it to his office, when a bundle of envelopes tumbled out. They were tied with a red ribbon like something from a vintage romance movie. My heart skipped as I saw they were addressed to Marcus in elegant feminine handwriting. I sat on the edge of our bed, the letters heavy in my hands. Should I read them? We'd been married for 7 years, together for 10. We'd built a life together, shared dreams, inside jokes, Sunday morning pancakes. But something had shifted in recent months. The late nights, the hushed phone calls, the way he'd angle his phone screen away when texting. It's nothing, Sarah, he'd said when I asked about a flirty text I'd glimpsed from someone named Victoria. Just a colleague from the Chicago office. She's like that with everyone means nothing. But these letters, these were something else entirely. With trembling fingers, I untied the ribbon. The first letter was dated 3 months ago. My dearest Marcus, last night keeps replaying in my mind. The way you looked at me across the conference table, the electricity when our hands touched as you passed me those documents. I know we agreed to keep things professional, but I can't stop thinking about our conversation at the hotel bar. You said you understood me like no one else ever has. I felt it too, that connection. I've never believed in soulmates until I met you. Yours always, on Victoria. My stomach churned. I set the letter aside and picked up another dated 2 weeks later. Marcus, my love, I'm counting the days until Denver. 3 weeks feels like an eternity. I bought that dress you liked, the emerald one that matches my eyes, you said. I know this is complicated with Sarah and everything, but what we have is rare. You said so yourself that night in Chicago. Some things are worth the risk, worth the pain. I dream about the life we could have together. Forever yours. The room spun Denver. He'd gone to Denver 6 weeks ago for a crucial client meeting. He'd FaceTimed me from his hotel room, showing me the view of the mountains, telling me how much he missed me. All lies. I read through more letters, each one a dagger to my heart. Victoria wrote about stolen moments in conference rooms, late-night phone calls, plans for a future together. She wrote about how Marcus had told her things were complicated with me, how we'd grown apart, how he was waiting for the right time to leave. Grown apart. Just last month, we'd celebrated our anniversary at that little Italian place where we'd had our first date. He'd held my hand across the table, told me I was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. He'd talked about finally starting the family we'd been putting off, maybe buying that bigger house in Westport. The final letter was dated just a week ago. My darling, I know you're struggling with the guilt. I see it in your eyes when you talk about her. But remember what you told me, that sometimes we meet the right person at the wrong time. Sarah sounds like a good woman, but good isn't the same as right. What we have is right. I can feel it in my bones. The way you make me laugh, the way we can talk for hours about everything and nothing. The way you hold me like I'm the most precious thing in the world. You said you'd talk to her after the holidays. I'll wait, my love. I'll wait as long as it takes. But please don't make me wait too long. My apartment feels so empty without you. I keep your cologne on my pillow just to feel close to you. Now, all my love, Victoria. I dropped the letters, my hands shaking violently. After the holidays. He was planning to leave me after the holidays. While I was planning Christmas dinners and New Year's resolutions, he was planning his exit strategy. The sound of the garage door opening jolted me from my spiral. Marcus was home early. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, his familiar whistle, the same tune he'd whistled for 10 years. How many times had that sound brought me comfort? Now it made me nauseous. Sarah Honey, whose car is in the... He stopped dead in the doorway, his eyes landing on the scattered letters, the untied ribbon, my tear-stained face. The color drained from his complexion. Sarah, I can explain. Can you? My voice was eerily calm, surprising us both. Can you explain how it was just a flirt when she's writing about your cologne on her pillow? Can you explain how you looked me in the eye and lied over and over and over? He stepped forward and I held up my hand, stopping him. Don't, just don't. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I stood gathering the letters with steady hands. She writes beautifully, your Victoria. Very poetic. Though I particularly enjoyed the part about how I'm a good woman, but not the right one. That was enlightening. Sarah, please, let you what Marcus lies some more. Tell me how it meant nothing while she's writing about your future together. I laughed, but it was hollow brittle. You were going to leave me after the holidays. What were you planning, one last family Christmas, before you dropped the bomb? How thoughtful. He sank onto the bed, his head in his hands. I never meant for it to happen. It just did. We were working late on the Morrison account, and stop. I couldn't bear to hear the details, the moment-by-moment descent of our marriage into ruins. I don't want to know how it started. I want to know how you could come home to me every night, kiss me goodnight and make love to me, all while building a secret life with someone else. I tried to end it, he said weakly, several times, but she nothing. You made choices. Every text, every call, every conference that was really a rendezvous, those were all choices. I moved to the closet, pulling out a suitcase. And now I'm making mine. What are you doing, Sarah? We can work through this. Couples therapy. Oh, couples therapy. I whirled on him. You think a few sessions can fix this? You didn't just cheat Marcus. You built an entire relationship. She's in love with you. She's waiting for you to leave me. And you were going to do it. I don't know what I was going to do. He stood running his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. I'm confused. Okay, I love you, but you love her too. It wasn't a question. I could see it in his eyes, the truth he couldn't voice. At least be honest about that. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, maybe it's different with her. Different how it... She gets my ambition. The late nights, the drive to succeed. She's in the same world, speaks the same language. With her, I don't have to explain why I missed dinner again or why I need to take that call during movie night. Each word was a revelation, a piece of the puzzle I hadn't known was incomplete. So I'm what too simple, too ordinary. The small-town teacher who doesn't understand the corporate world. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. I zipped the suitcase with more force than necessary. You know what the saddest part is? I was happy. I thought we were happy. While you were falling in love with someone else, I was planning our future. I was looking at ovulation calendars, Marcus. I was ready to start trying for the baby we always talked about. His face crumpled. Sarah, I'll stay with my sister tonight. We can figure out the details later. I grabbed my purse, my keys, my phone, the essentials for a life suddenly unmoored. I'd appreciate it if you weren't here when I come back for the rest of my things. This is your home too. I'll go... No. I paused at the doorway, not looking back. Keep the house. Keep everything. I don't want any of it anymore. It's all tainted now, every room, every piece of furniture, every memory. I hope she likes my kitchen. I hope she appreciates the garden I spent 3 years cultivating. I hope she enjoys the life I built. I left before he could respond, driving through those beautiful autumn streets, with tears blurring my vision. I pulled over twice, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. 10 years. A decade of my life reduced to a bundle of love letters and a hollow apology. My sister Emma lived an hour away in New Haven. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a fierce hug. What did he do? I couldn't speak, just handed her one of Victoria's letters. She read it, her expression darkening with each line. That bastard! That absolute bastard! There's more, I whispered, and so many more. She guided me to her couch, wrapping me in the quilt our grandmother had made. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the conference trips that weren't the late nights that were lies, the future he was planning without me. I told her about Victoria, successful, sophisticated Victoria, who understood his ambition and shared his dreams. I told her about the cologne on her pillow, the emerald dress, the apartment that felt empty without him. Yeah, you know what Emma said when I'd run out of words and tears? She can have him. Any man who could do this, who could live this double life without his conscience eating him alive, that's not a man worth keeping. But I love him, I said, hating how pathetic it sounded. You love who you thought he was? But that person, the one who whispered sweet nothings while sexting another woman, that person doesn't deserve your love. She was right, of course. But knowing something intellectually and accepting it emotionally were two different things. That night, I lay in her guest bed replaying every moment from the past few months. The signs had been there, I just hadn't wanted to see them. The new cologne, the gym membership he'd suddenly embraced, the way he'd started criticizing little things, my cooking, my friends, my contentment with my teaching career. He'd been preparing to leave, reshaping himself for a new life, while slowly devaluing the old one, making me smaller so his betrayal would feel justified. We grew apart, he'd tell people. It happens. My phone buzzed throughout the night, Marcus begging me to come home to talk to give him a chance to explain. I turned it off, but not before sending one final message. I'll be in touch through a lawyer. Please don't contact me directly again. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction of 25 8-year-olds who needed my attention. My colleagues noticed something was wrong, but respected my privacy. I moved into a small apartment closer to school, furnished it with pieces that had never known Marcus's touch. The divorce papers were straightforward. He didn't contest anything, agreed to all my terms, which were minimal. I wanted a clean break, nothing that would tether us together. He tried to give me more than I asked for guilt money, but I refused. I didn't want his guilt. I wanted my dignity. Emma came with me when I returned to pack my personal belongings. Marcus had honored my request to be absent, but evidence of Victoria was everywhere. A different shampoo in the shower, a wine glass with lipstick that wasn't mine, a silk scarf draped over the chair where I used to grade papers. She moved in already. Emma's voice was sharp with disgust. Looks like it. I felt strangely detached, like I was viewing someone else's life. She got what she wanted, but as I packed photo albums and yearbooks, my grandmother's china and my mother's jewelry box, I wondered if she really had. She'd won a man who was capable of profound deception, who could compartmentalize his life so completely that he could kiss me goodbye in the morning and whisper sweet nothings to her by noon. She'd won a man who could plan a future with one woman while sleeping beside another. I found our wedding album in the closet, tucked behind winter coats. I flipped through it, studying our faces. We looked so young, so certain. I'd worn my mother's dress, carried roses from my father's garden. Marcus had cried when I walked down the aisle, genuine tears, I'd thought. Now I wondered if anything had been real. I left the album on the bed, open to a photo of us laughing at something the best man had said. Let her see it. Let her wonder if he'd cry at their wedding, too, if those tears would be any more authentic than his love. 3 months later, I ran into Marcus at a coffee shop downtown. He was alone, hunched over a laptop, and didn't see me at first. He looked tired, older somehow. When he glanced up and our eyes met, his face cycled through surprise, hope, and shame in rapid succession. Sarah, he half stood uncertain. How are you? I'm well. And I was surprisingly. The sharp edge of pain had dulled to a manageable ache. It's been tough. He gestured to the empty chair across from him, a question in his eyes. I hesitated, then sat. We'd have to interact eventually, same town, overlapping social circles. Might as well get it over with. How's Victoria? I kept my voice neutral, proud of my composure. He winced. It didn't work out. I bit back the urge to say shocking or what a surprise, or any of the dozen sarcastic responses that came to mind. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? His laugh was bitter. I destroyed our marriage for something that lasted 3 weeks after you left. Turns out, the fantasy was better than the reality. Once she had me full-time, once it wasn't secret anymore, the thrill was gone. That must have been difficult for you. I meant it oddly enough. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because heartbreak was heartbreak, even when it was deserved. I'm sorry, Sarah. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I'm so damn sorry. I threw away the best thing in my life for excitement, for ego, for the thrill of being wanted by someone new. I'll regret it forever. I appreciate that. I stood gathering my coffee. But Marcus, don't regret it forever. Learn from it, grow from it, but don't wallow in it. We both deserve better than that. Do you think? He paused, seeming to reconsider. Never mind. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I considered the question, really considered it. I'm working on it. Not for you, but for me. Carrying anger is exhausting, and you're not worth that energy anymore. It came out harsher than intended, but it was honest. He flinched but nodded. Fair enough. Take care, Marcus. You too, Sarah, you too. I left him there with his laptop and his regrets stepping out into the crisp winter air. The seasons had changed since that October day when my world imploded. The leaves were gone, the trees bare, but there was beauty in the starkness, a promise of renewal come spring. My phone buzzed a text from Emma about dinner plans, another from a fellow teacher about a workshop one, from the guy I'd met at book club, who wanted to know if I'd like to grab coffee sometime. Life, it seemed, had continued while I wasn't paying attention. I thought about those love letters, probably still tucked away somewhere in what used to be our home. Victoria's flowing script, her purple prose, her declarations of eternal devotion. I wondered if she'd asked for them back, if Marcus had returned them tied with the same red ribbon. I wondered if she ever realized that a man who could betray one woman so thoroughly would eventually betray another. But mostly I didn't think about them at all anymore. The sharp sting of betrayal had faded to a dull memory, like a scar from an old wound visible, if you looked for it, but no longer defining. 6 months after finding those letters, I stood in my classroom watching my students work on their Mother's Day cards, their earnest concentration tongues poking out as they carefully formed letters filled me with a warmth I'd thought I'd lost. Miss Peterson. Lucy, one of my quieter students, approached my desk. How do you spell beautiful? I helped her sound it out, watching as she painstakingly wrote each letter. That's a lovely word choice, Lucy. What made you think of it? My mom always says I'm beautiful when I'm sad. I want her to know she's beautiful too. Children's wisdom, unfiltered and pure. I thought about all the ways we complicate love as adults, how we dress it up in conditions and expectations, how we mistake intensity for depth, novelty for connection. After school, I drove to my new favorite spot, a park overlooking the Sound. I'd discovered it during one of my early morning runs, when sleep eluded me and movement was the only thing that quieted my racing mind. Now it was my thinking place, my peace place. I pulled out my journal, a habit I'd started in therapy. Writing helped me process, helped me understand not just what had happened, but who I was becoming in its aftermath. Today marks 6 months since the letters. I wrote. I thought I'd be angrier or sadder or something more dramatic. Instead, I feel free. Is that wrong? To feel grateful for a betrayal that broke me open and forced me to rebuild. I'd been so focused on being the perfect wife, on maintaining the perfect life, that I'd lost track of what I actually wanted. Marcus's affair, devastating as it was, had forced me to examine everything. Why had I been so willing to shrink myself to fit his vision? Why had I accepted his subtle criticisms, his dismissal of my career, his priorities becoming mine by default? The woman who'd found those letters 6 months ago would have done anything to save her marriage. The woman writing in this journal understood that some things weren't meant to be saved. My phone rang. David, the book club guy. We'd had coffee twice now, nothing serious, just easy conversation about literature and life. Hey, Sarah, I know it's last minute, but there's a poetry reading tonight at that bookstore you mentioned. Interested? I hesitated out of habit, then caught myself. That sounds wonderful. What time? 7. I can pick you up or we can meet there. Let's meet there. Baby steps. I wasn't ready to depend on anyone for rides or anything else, but I was ready to say yes to possibilities. Great, see you tonight. After we hung up, I sat watching the sun set over the water, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere in this same town, Marcus was living with his choices. Victoria was nursing her own heartbreak, or perhaps she'd moved on to another married man, another bundle of secret letters. But that wasn't my story anymore. My story was this: a woman who'd been broken but refused to stay that way. A woman who'd learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. A woman who'd discovered that the life she'd built for two could be rebuilt for one, and that it could be even better, authentic, whole, entirely her own. I closed my journal and headed home to get ready for the poetry reading. As I drove, I thought about those love letters one last time. Victoria had signed them, "Forever yours," and "All my love," and "Yours always." Such permanent words for such a temporary feeling. But maybe that's what we all do, speak in forevers, when we only mean for now, promise always, when we should promise to try. Maybe the real love letters are the ones we write to ourselves in the choices we make every day, to show up to be honest, to choose growth over comfort, truth over pretty lies. The letters I'd found that October day had ended one story, but they'd begun another one, where I was both the author and the heroine, writing my own happiness one page at a time. And that was a love story worth telling.